So with that, go. So Green for All is a national nonprofit, and we're working to build an inclusive green economy strong enough to pull people out of poverty. So the green economy gives us a window to do a lot of the things that we've heard about earlier today in terms of creating middle-class jobs, those semi-skilled jobs that are going to create better opportunity over the long run. And there's also a real opportunity here, I think, to create the political will that a lot of folks have referred to in terms of making sure there's strategies that work long-term. So if you could pause there for a second, Lisa. So going back to Chester, Chester is an organizer in Pittsburgh, and he was really frustrated because he's on the street asking to get folks involved. And he saw all these kids sucked into drugs and gang violence trying to help their parents pay the bills, and almost without exception, everyone asked him, "Can you get me a job?" So he decided to invest a relatively small amount of money and time, $350 in a union program with the operating engineers. And 10 weeks later, he now has his own solar installation business, and he's actually creating those jobs. So the wages there are $20 an hour or more, which really pulls youth off the streets in the way that through the $8 an hour retail jobs really can't. If done right, there's things happening all across the country. There's Chesters popping up everywhere. This is a map we've pulled together of some of the places where stimulus money is creating good green jobs. So this is really an opportunity for us to shape this economy that's in process. One example of that, I want to highlight 3 sectors and then a couple of tools that folks have. One good example is in Portland, where around energy efficiency, the city's created the first city-scaled energy efficiency program that's going to create 10,000 jobs over 10 years by weatherizing 100,000 homes. There's 2 pieces to it. One is the policy that's going to create good jobs. That was the last slide, but I will catch up. They're using a community workforce agreement, which is a tool that's been used by cities for a long time, mostly on construction, to ensure that there's good wages and pathways into the jobs that they're creating. The second piece of it is creating demand, sort of kickstarting this sector by creating a revolving loan fund that's going to remove the upfront costs for folks who want to do energy efficiency work on their homes, but haven't had the money to do it. So by using, this is sort of the policy framework, as we think about these different sectors, we have an opportunity to change policy that drives demand in a sector by creating green buildings. That creates construction careers, which if we use a community workforce agreement will ensure good jobs. It's really important to create a pipeline, as we've heard a lot of folks talk about today. And the stakeholder process is a part of that, and the stakeholder process also really helps in terms of accountability over the long run. So in another sector, this is recycling. Josefina is probably the best environmentalist you can meet. This is where she works. As you can imagine, she gets ear infections a lot. Sometimes she gets cut by trash that's here. She's sorting. And if there's any job that deserves to be well paid, recycling is one of the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the country. It's mostly not unionized. It's ranked more dangerous than policeman or a firefighter. So that said, recycling creates and sustains 10 times more jobs than landfills or other strategies. So it's worth thinking about. It's definitely, things are moving that direction. There's ways to move it and create good jobs. Part of that is by, again, the city's creating policies that drive demand. That's right, you're moving me forward. So zero waste policies, which incentivize recycling and composting. Also, policies that require people that are using disposable cups and silverware and all the stuff that you get. If you require that those are recycled, it actually creates a local market for recycled materials. So it creates recycling, and it also creates incentives for green manufacturing. So moving right along, remembering sort of where Josefina works, it's also really important to make sure these are good jobs. There's a good model in San Francisco. The Recology plant has a lease with the city for its land. So as part of that lease, the city asked them to negotiate a community workforce agreement with the local neighborhood, which, it's waste processing. So of course it's a poor, mostly community of color neighborhood. Right now, 50% of their hires come from the local community. The wages start at $16 an hour. Within the first year, it goes up to $20 an hour. And it's a union plant, so there's advances with seniority, and those folks are advancing into management. So moving right along, urban manufacturing is another sector where there's real opportunities. It can be one of the most promising. This is a company that recycles glass into tabletops. So we have folks that work at our organization who came from redevelopment authorities, who are saying, you know, this is really exciting. We've been putting all this money into TIFs and subsidies and thinking about development strategies that are mixed use and create $8 an hour retail jobs. With small investments in urban manufacturers, $25,000 to $40,000 in terms of grants or loans for technical assistance, we can actually create manufacturing jobs, which if you look here, pay much better than retail or restaurant jobs. And these numbers are from New York, but this is typical across the country. Around the country, manufacturing jobs pay about $10,000 to $25,000 more than retail does each year. So if you look, here are a couple of, getting a little deeper, what do these look like? If you pass policies that incentivize energy efficiency and retrofits and renewables, that means that you need brackets and caulk and blower machines, and it creates a market locally for all those products. Likewise, local green supply chains, if you're requiring... no problem, just pause there, I'll catch up. So if local green supply chains, if you're incentivizing purchasing of green materials, creates a market locally, which again goes back into the recycling. It creates a market for the materials that you're producing locally. This is a clean tech corridor that the city of Los Angeles has pulled together, thinking again, as we're moving towards smart meters and wind turbines. We're going to need to develop a lot of that technology. So Los Angeles has invested in this clean tech corridor that's going to help them be a part of driving the technology forward. And we just want to make sure when we're investing in these innovative strategies that we're continuing to think about how to build opportunities in for lower income folks in historically disadvantaged communities. So I'm getting the stop sign, but I want to flip ahead to the role foundations can play, hit 3 quick points. This is sort of coalitions driving policy. There's been a lot of investment for years just in training. Training alone doesn't create jobs. But we've heard today about how to create political will. We recommend that foundations invest in the sort of strategies that are going to do that. Flipping forward, this is an attempt to map out a really messy workforce development process that a lot of folks have engaged in and are clear doesn't work. We have 39 million Americans in poverty. It's going to be really important to line up the funding with policies that create jobs and make sure that they're good jobs, that we have deep outreach with the communities that are most affected, that the training is employer-driven, and at the end of the day, that's what's going to bring folks into middle-class careers. So finally, another piece that I'm really excited about is foundations have program-related investments. One of the key challenges that folks have had is finding capital for these revolving loan funds or these other sectors. Living Cities has really pioneered a model here in Santa Clara where they are helping to bring in support from private investors. They're getting a 3 to 4% return on their money. This is not a grant. This is just their investment, but it's really helping to kickstart the market and create a real program in Santa Clara. So to sum up, these are the folks that we're working for. These are the communities that we really want to make sure are benefiting from our opportunity dividend, and we think that the green economy creates a really good framework and opportunity to get these folks into middle-class jobs. Thank you.